let's discuss the market. What do you guys see going on in the market? And then we'll look at the numbers and see what the numbers say. But what do you guys see? Anybody?
Well, I made a deal. Well, I tried to make a deal with somebody, and the people accepted. They had 31 offers, and so my deal was not accepted on one house in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, that sounds right. What else are you guys seeing? We've been talking about how it was softening a little bit, like we weren't seeing as many 31 offers, and like Dalton told us that one time he had 45 or something in over a weekend. It had softened up a little bit. When we look at these numbers today, you'll see that our shortage of supply is not going anywhere. It's getting worse. We had 400 more sales last week than we had new listings. So that's tightening up. A lot of properties pending, a lot coming back on market. About, according to my math, about 22% of properties are, 22% of sales, 22% of the amount of sales are coming back on the market. Seeing a lot of back on market stuff, whether that be inspection because people don't think they have to fix their house right now, or that's financing falling apart. I'm hearing it a little bit from you guys, which has always been the case, but with financing falling apart, but I'm hearing a little bit from you guys. And of course, you know, we're still seeing, but not as much of the, because people are waiving their appraisal contingency, we're not seeing as many fall apart because of appraisal, but we are seeing a lot of deals come back on market for various reasons, a little bit more than usual. So let's go ahead and you got anything else you guys want to talk about before we get into the numbers? Or do you want to look? Oh, yes, Malvis.
Just real quick, Ryan, what I've seen also is this craziness about difference in prices in the same neighborhoods or the same surrounding areas. Like you have a house that is, you know, you have two houses that are very similar in square footage and similar in everything, and sells for X amount, and 2 months later, the next one sells for 20 or 30 grand more. Like where that came from with only 2 months difference.
Malvis, what do your instincts tell you? Have you thought about it? Like what might be driving that?
People putting more than what the house is worth.
Well, don't make me get into my speech about what something's worth again.
Well, yeah.
But
you know what I mean?
The
appraised value. Yeah.
Yes, appraisals is what keeps everybody. It's a cycle that feeds itself. Appraisals keep all the prices the same, which keeps all the appraisals the same. So appraisals is what limits the value of houses historically. That's all out the window right now, because if Daryl is only taking offers that have waived appraisal contingencies, and you're taking and you're letting people do appraisals, then Daryl's house is going to sell for 20 grand more or whatever more, right?
Yeah, I actually had an appraiser call me because he was trying to do a comp neighborhood that I sold back in May, and he couldn't justify the price for what this buyer's paying. So, you know, he was asking questions like, you know, did the buyer paid extra for above appraised value and things like that?
Right. Well, that's the questions he has to ask. He wants to know, he wants to make sure his appraisal is going to be in line. So these guys have to cover their own backsides, and they can't do an appraisal. They try to limit it. We've had appraisers meet with you guys before, and they talk about how they'll stretch it if it's close. If it's within a few thousand, they'll stretch it. But if it's not close, they won't, because they can't justify it. And at some point they have to be able to justify what they did. You know, they get reviewed. And if we get back to what happened in 2000 and 2007, 2008, they got in a lot of trouble for just rubber stamping everything that came along. Oh, if somebody's willing to pay it, that's what it's worth, which is true, which I hate that they got in trouble for that, because if somebody's willing to pay it, that's what it was worth. But that's not how banks work. Well, how banks work is one day they've got to give it to Glenn, and those of you guys don't know Glenn does a lot
That's
of
right.
REO stuff.
Right
They-
here.
one day they got to give it to Glenn, and they got to justify why they loaned so much on a house that now Glenn's got to sell for a lot cheaper because a lot of people are in foreclosure. Okay, so just so you guys know, if you guys don't know Glenn is an agent with us in Tampa, and he does specializes in REO stuff. So if you guys ever need some advice or input or help on REO deal, I'm sure Glenn would be happy to help you.
More than happy.
More than happy. All right, so let's get into the numbers a little bit. Wait, I got a lot of people on chat. Yes, I know you guys are all affected. Most of you were, I was too. Slowing considerable in rural area there, Gail. Gail Bernard says it's slowing there. It is not, well, we're gonna look at this right now. Lisa, Glenn's last name is Morissette. If you need to contact him, I'm sure Glenn will put his contact info in the chat for you. Won't you, Glenn?
Sure.
Okay. Let's do screen share.
Chat. Hold on.
And
Contact.
okay, guys. Let me get that off of there. All right. Let's look a little bit at this is Tampa. Well, I want to show you where I want to get into. That's my empty transaction desk for you guys who don't know what an empty transaction desk looks like. That's what it looks like. Let's get into this first. All right, Market Watch. Those of you in the Matrix area, Market Watch. This is residential properties in the last 7 days. Can everybody see that? Just give me a nod if you can see that, please. Okay. New listings, 3,000, let's say. Sales, 3,479. So that's almost 500 more. I said 400 before. That's almost 500 more sales than new listings. Back on market, about 1,000. So there's your 22.5, 23% back on market. Price increases. Some people are raising prices probably after it comes back on the market. Some people are decreasing prices because they're shooting way too high, which we'll talk about in a second. Let's talk about the Tampa housing market, and then we're going to do Orlando, and then a couple of, we're going to do a suburb of Tampa, Brandon, and then we're going to do Kissimmee, a suburb of Orlando. All right, Tampa housing. Median sales price, 322, up 9.2% from last year. Median days on market, 10. 77 very, all right. Many homes get multiple offers, some with waived contingencies. Of course, the average home sells around list price and goes pending in about 8 days. Hot homes sell about 4% above list price and go pending in around 3 days. Sales to list price. Okay, see how this is only plus 1.4 from last year? Last year, we were not quite into this seller's market that we are now. It's a little bit of a seller's market, but not like it is now. But look at this. Why do you think it's only plus 1.4% from what we had as a pretty fair market last year? Why do you think it's only up that? But you guys have seen a lot more than that. You guys, so why do you think that is? Any ideas?
Well, it's
I
the
can't
amount
see the
of
chat
growth.
right now, so
It's the amount of growth from year to year.
what I am, oh, wait a minute. Let me go back to this. Let me see. I'm not seeing the chat if you guys are putting it in chat. Yeah, so what it is that we are, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, we are listing properties for more than we think they're worth. More now so than ever. We used to not take listings for much more than we thought they were worth, and now we're taking them and we're putting them on 40 grand higher, 30 grand higher, depending on the value of the house. We're putting them on a couple % higher than we think that they're worth. People are asking way more for houses than they were, and they're getting it clearly at 99.8%. Let's look at Orlando. Very similar. Instead of 9.2, now it's 13.1. Same amount of houses sold, pretty 3 more days on the market. So pretty standard here. And you see how much more flat this curve is. Tampa has seen a lot more up and down than Orlando has over 3 years, right? Very competitive. Average home sales around 9 days, 3% above, and about 4 days for hot properties. Very similar numbers, sale to list price. Now let's look at our Brandon, because when you get into these outlying areas, you see a lot more what was maybe undervalued before, and people more willing to move into more rural area, not rural, but suburban areas, right? Because they can work from home, because of whatever, and you're seeing these values in these suburbs shoot through the roof. Look, they're up 22. This is a big suburb, Brandon's pretty big city. 22% year over year increase, right? A lot fewer houses sold, of course, because it's a lot smaller area, but 7 days on the market, which is less than what we just saw in Orlando. Look, it's down 50% from a year ago. So last year, this would have been 11 and a half days, or I'm sorry, 10 and a half days on market, 11 days on market, okay, for average. 87, very competitive. We saw 73 and 77 in Tampa and Orlando. All right, so these are 5% above. We just saw 3% and 4%. These are 5% and selling in 3 days for a hot house, meaning a house that's ready to go. And however else, this is a Redfin site, however else they determine a hot house is, but that's what it looks like. Kissimmee, 24.9%. This keeps going up as you get into these suburbs. A lot more houses. Kissimmee's those of you not familiar with Kissimmee, it's a good sized city. Median days on market 10, that's down 60%. So it was 16, well, something like that. I can't do the reverse math on that. It was around 15 last year. Okay. And you see these prices steadily increasing. But look at that, 25% year over year median sale price. I have a chart that I cannot find right now. Look at this, over sale to list. They're selling the average house, the median house in Kissimmee is selling for more than it was listed for. And you guys are listing them high. Look at this, a typical market, 2019, 97.6%, when you guys were listing them reasonably and they were selling at a reasonable rate. Now over 100%, just crazy. All right, I have another chart that I'm going to find for you guys. Do you guys have any questions or comments about that? I'm gonna go back to my sheet.
Tell you what, pull up Wesley Chapel someday, Meadow Point, and see what that looks like. You're looking 2 houses on the market. That's it. The average days are like 2. It's crazy.
I have one under contract, which is like has a 50% chance to fall apart. It came out like $50,000 short appraised value. Now it's up to the seller if they want to budge, because the buyer just waived the gap. So yeah, we'll see.
Wow. Yeah, let me look this up real quick. Yeah, Wesley Chapel has 24% year over year.
Yeah.
8 days on market, 87, very 5% above, selling in 3 days. It looks just like it looks a lot like Kissimmee. The numbers are very similar to Kissimmee. 101% sale to list price, and it was up at 102.
Yeah,
2 months ago. Just crazy. You guys can't list them.
It is crazy,
right?
Right.
I'm joking about that, but you know, they are going and they are hot again. Guys, I wanted to show you, I want to go back to this where we talked about, you guys aren't screen sharing right now. Let me screen share here. I want to go back to this, back to this sheet. What does this tell you? That were sold 500 more houses than got listed.
Those homeowners that were put in the MLS after they were sold?
No. These are new listings to hit the MLS, and then properties that were marked sold. That's all MLS knows is what you guys put into it. So properties that were marked sold were 3,500 and new are only 3,000. What does that tell you?
Supply is falling.
Supply is falling relative to demand, right? And what is that going to do to pressure and prices and your 31 offer situations?
Going up.
They're going to be right. They're going to be 37 offer situations instead of 31 because there's going to be more buyers out there with fewer homes to buy, and that's going to cause the prices to, of course, rise because that makes you confident. Dalton's on his way to a listing appointment right now, and he's going to go tell them market's tight and let's ask a little bit more. Right. So that's what's going on. So we've been talking about for the last, I don't know, month or 6 weeks about how you guys were these 10 offers on the first day. We're down to 6 offers on the first day. Well, doesn't look like that's going anywhere soon. It looks like it might be going back up to 10 offers for a hot property you have to sell. Any thoughts on that kind of stuff? I need you guys' input. I need to know what you guys are out there.
Well, I'll tell you what, from the bank's foreclosure standpoint, I do first quarter, we're probably going to see more that's going to hit the market. So that should bring some more inventory into the marketplace. So that might loosen it up a little bit. That's my thoughts on that. You know, whether that happens or not, they keep saying more and more foreclosures are going to be hitting, but I have seen it starting to pick up a little bit more. They're trickling in. But they really talking first quarter is when you'll see some type of a correction.
So Glenn, maybe you you know more about this than I do for sure. So tell me about this. What I distinctly remember, obviously 12 years ago, 13 years ago, what happened, but that's when values were falling. Everybody was panicking. Values were falling. Now you've got people who maybe they got the forbearances, maybe they can't pay their mortgage for whatever reason, they're not working or whatever it is. But now that house, even though I only put 3.5% on it or 5% on it 4 years ago, it's worth considerably more than what I owe on it now. Aren't I just going to go panic and sell this property?
You are, and that's you're going to see a lot of short sales that are going to come up. That's what's going to happen. Not short sales, excuse me. They're just going to put their house in the market and they're going to sell it. So the thing is, how do you get to these individuals that may be wanting to sell their homes really quickly? And that's what I've been trying to figure out. And that's the key to this whole thing. You know, trying to reach out to those individuals now to say, hey, let's put this in the market. Let's get it sold. So because there's so much equity.
From a salesman standpoint, and you guys know I look at everything through sales. From a salesman standpoint, what is their pain? They have pain, and we're going to fix it for them. Their pain is the stress of knowing that they can't pay their mortgage and they're eventually going to get foreclosed or served. Their credit's going to go bad. They're worried about all of these things, right? So to solve that for them, you say, look, right now you have $75,000 or $50,000 or $30,000 that you can walk away with when we sell your house. If we sell it now before the bank comes after you, right? Before they start piling up legal fees, before they start doing all this stuff. Glenn, what is the average that you see when you look at and I don't know how closely you look at this stuff, but if I owe $300,000 I can't pay, how much gets tacked on that through lawyers on average through, okay, this is what you can't pay. This is your principal that you owe. Here's extra because we had to sue you.
Yeah, it could be anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 or more.
Yeah, significant amount of money that eats up all the equity that you might have had. So the key to that is solving people's problems. And there's going to be a lot of these problems. You see people aren't working. I mean, it's obvious, even if you don't watch the news, you go out to a restaurant and they're only drive-through open because they can't find employees. And it's not just restaurant workers, it's everybody across the board, right? All companies have a hard time finding workers right now. So that means a lot of people aren't working, right? Whether by choice or maybe they don't want to work below what they're worth or whatever it is, they're going to have to pay mortgage at some point, or they're not paying their rent, which means an investor is going to be hurting to sell a property or something like that if they're stretched thin. So this is all related. So that's what I think we're going to see a lot of before we see foreclosures, because we're just not going to see the foreclosures we saw before, because there aren't, people aren't upside down. They're not double hurt.
That's true, but it's the properties that have been abandoned that'll start hitting the market probably the first quarter. They've just been left. So it's before all the forbearances have taken place. So they were able to, go through the courts, but that's what's going to happen when those are going to be released. Abandoned properties.
Between the better lending guidelines that we have now, and they're not just letting everybody pull all the cash out of their house, all the time. there's not going to be as many people upside down as there were before. So that's until people start pulling every dime of equity out of their house so they can go on vacation, then.
No, you're right. And that's the difference where we are today to where it was before. So.
Right. All right, guys. Any ideas or comments about that stuff? Tell me what you guys are seeing, man.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes,
Hey,
how
Daniel.
you? Yes.
How are you? So just question for the other agent is what they're seeing in the market is everything selling over asking? I mean, my only two deals are they're being cash. So obviously we're able to do listing price, but everything is selling over asking?
I mean, I can answer that. Not everything. You're seeing a lot on here. Like I showed you the housing reports. They're at 99%, 98%, 101%, whatever. But that's an average. That's a median and an average. I'm not sure if it's the median or the average. It must be an average. So what you're seeing, I mean, no, absolutely not, because there are people listing stuff way above what it's worth.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes it's at the seller's demand. And right now, there was a time where we would fight the seller on that and explain to them that, this thing's just going to sit here and people are going to wonder what's wrong with it, et cetera. And right now it's hard to argue that, because you tell them, no, it's not worth 350, it's worth 330. And they say, and then you list it at 330 and your offers come in at 350, so then you look like an idiot. So
Yeah.
it's hard to say that. And you look like more than an idiot. You look like you didn't have their best interest at heart. You look like you were trying to get them to sell it cheaper so you could get a quick commission or whatever they think, right? Because they can't empathize with you. So they think that you're out to get them. If you do that, it makes you look bad. So, I mean, at this point, if they're saying it's worth 350 and you're saying you're everything about it, your CMA says 330 but they're saying 350, this would be the only time I'll tell you guys this, just list it. Don't, a lot of times in a fair market or a buyer's market, you make money when you actually have to negotiate with your seller to be reasonable a lot of times, right? That's when you're actually valuable to them, is when you talk them into being reasonable, because you guys know if you overlist it in an even market or a buyer's market, it's just going to sit there and then everybody's going to pick it apart because it must have something wrong with it, right? So and yeah, it's funny, you're not getting these emails as much anymore, where buyer's agents used to tell you, we're offering this much because it's got this problem and that problem, and it's not, we don't think it's worth that much. Well, they're not doing that right now. So they're saying, please, please, please accept my offer. And you listing agents are treating them like dogs. And then in a couple of years, you'll be begging them to buy anything that you put out there for nothing. Give me something.
Okay.
That's the way the market works.
Yeah. Well, I'm only talking about like on the buyer's perspective. I only have buyers right now. That's all I got. So I'm working with those. And I just got a referral the other day from a client from Michigan relocating here in January. So then he's asking me a lot of questions about how the market is here and how everything is behaving. If there's we're looking any slowdown or anything, which, I mean, I don't know what to tell him. It's hard to tell, but, I said, we're still having multiple offer situation. Everything's selling basically over asking. So.
Yeah, we're looking at a slowdown. We just don't know when it is. So
exactly. That's why I told him. I mean, I can't predict anything because it's the last 2 years prices have been always going up, so it's very hard to say anything's going to happen in the next couple of months.
I saw a great chart, and I'm going to try to find it for you guys. I lost it when I was doing other research, but it shows the houses that are selling in 2021 compared to the ones that have been selling before. So you guys are seeing these average home sales shoot through the roof. But I want to be clear with you about something. This is also a time where I don't know if it's lower middle class or whatever, the median income type people, the lower the median income type people are having a hard time with their life, with life in general, right? With working and making money and doing well. And people who are the upper middle class and above have maintained their income pretty well through this whole thing, and they're the ones buying houses. You guys know that the $400,000 houses are selling. We used to sit on here and talk about how do we sell these houses in the 400s, right? Because they're not rich, and they're not, a regular person couldn't buy them, and a rich person didn't want them. So they were hard to sell. We used to talk about that on here, where why are all these 250s going so fast and these four? Well, now the 400s are going like that. You guys are thinking nothing of putting stuff in the 400s, and it is a different buyer who's buying right now. So that is part of why you see these 25%. That doesn't mean everybody in Kissimmee's house is worth 500 when it was worth 400 a year ago. What it means is there's more $500,000 houses selling than $300,000 houses, or whatever, not more of them, but percentage-wise more of them. And we've looked at those kind of reports before, and you can get those on your matrix just by running the market reports. So think about those kind of things as well. That doesn't mean all these houses are going up 25%, or they're up. Everybody's house is worth 8% more than it was last month. Okay. What it means is there are more expensive houses selling. They're not tracking the same house. What they're tracking is they're just taking volume from, we had 3,500 sales and it was this much in volume, and here's your median and here's your average. Okay. So I want you guys to think about it,
Don't you think it's hard for a Floridian to even acquire a property these days? I mean, if I'm doing market, if I'm just a buyer's agent, which is extremely difficult that it is today, why don't you try to be going out and as you said, to go out to people from New York, Boston, New Jersey? They're all coming here with cash in their, in their pockets. And how is a normal Floridian gonna compete with that? As you said, they're selling their homes for $2 million cash. They come down here. So, and even I've tried to start doing it. Any way I can get some of the market out there, to come to Florida, because I just think that trying to find a Floridian a home is extremely difficult. And I could be wrong.
It is, and those of us who are who are living in Florida have a harder time affording houses. And it says, and there's a report that came out last week that I saw, and it says, and it said that there's more percentage-wise, more of your income is going towards your mortgage than it ever has before, and your rent, as you guys know as well. So it's becoming, and it's money from other places. If you take a job in Florida at the Boeing plant, and I'm just making this up, so please don't quote me on this. If you work at Lockheed Martin or Boeing in Florida versus working at Lockheed Martin or Boeing in the Silicon Valley, they're making 2.5 times as much because their cost of living is 2.5 times as much. But then they come here because now they can work remotely, and they come here and they can spend 2.5 times as much for a house if they want to. Right?
They keep their salary.
Right. Yeah. So the $200,000 job or $100,000 job here, they're making 300,000 out there, and so it's not as much for them. And they think we've been doing, guys. You guys have been selling the dream for years. You guys can come. People, you've always been amazed at these when you do get somebody from New York through social media or however you're getting them, and they look you up because they see downtown Daryl, and they look you up and they say, I can get a condo in downtown Orlando for 800,000. I can't get a room with a window in New York for 800,000, right? So it's remarkable.
If you can find them,
it's a whole different game. The money is completely different to them. So that's always been a thing, and it's way more of a thing right now because people want to get to Florida because they can. The only thing that keeps a lot of people in less preferred climates, let's say, is family and jobs, right? Everybody wants to be in, and not everybody, but most people want to be in Florida or Arizona or Texas or somewhere where the weather is, Southern California, where the weather is nice. They just can't afford it because it's a job or whatever, right? So any other questions or comments on that? Anybody else seeing anything out there? And Ada, I'm not sure if we answered any of your questions except that the market is crazy, and it's still, when they ask you how it is down there, when they ask you how it is down there, it's hot down here.
I understand. I'm targeting only out-of-state buyers, honestly. So I have 3 I'm working right now that are out of state, and my 2 last deals are out of state as well. So that's all I'm working, and I find it easier because these 2 buyers that one is putting pre-approved for 500 and is putting 300 down. The other buyer, she's approved for 300, is putting 20% down. And I have an investor. I like this kind of buyers because it's easy to win offers. I mean, if you're gonna put a lot of money down.
Yeah, Ada recently had a client from out of state, from Oregon or something, I think.
Yeah.
And they came to Florida and found a place to live that they paid cash for. They paid over asking, but they found a place to live for $140,000. They found a place for a young couple to move into.
Yeah,
for
young couple.
$140,000. And it's a decent enough place.
Yeah.
But they're just amazed that they can find something like that. They snapped it up
Exactly.
and they paid over asking, and they snapped it up very quickly, closed very quickly because they couldn't believe it. So
I have a
Yeah,
few
yeah, yeah.
clients. I have a
That's
few
amazing.
clients from New York, one from Oregon and one from Washington State, and they all think we live like kings here in Florida because what they can buy for their money here is not comparable.
I just had a hour-long discussion with a friend of mine who's in the Philippines for work, and he's overstayed 3 years now. He's like, everything is so cheap here, man. It's unbelievable. It's awesome, because he's getting his American company salary and living for 20% of the cost of living, so it's crazy. But yeah, we do. They think we live like kings for cheap, and that's why they've all retired here for years.
But then you have our Floridians. Like, I was talking to my hairdresser yesterday, and she's going through a divorce, and she can't find anywhere to rent, and she
Right.
can't find anything she can afford to buy because she's getting outbid on everything.
And you know what? The average Filipino makes $200 a month. So that's how they feel too when other people move to their country and spend more on everything. It's just the way we are here. I mean, that's just what we're in. Our salaries and everything can't keep up with all the money coming in.
I have a question for Glenn because I get this question all the time. When do you think there's going to be a lot of REOs, foreclosures coming up on the market?
A lot, I don't know, but what I was saying to Ryan is that I believe that you'll start to see some coming to the market, probably first quarter of next year. You'll start to see more that's coming up. And if you know, let me know, because I try to look at it every day. I mean, I call banks every day. I talk to asset managers, and that's the consensus. First quarter.
Has
Okay.
the moratorium on evictions lifted yet?
First quarter of 2022.
Correct. Yes, 2022. And what was your question? I'm sorry.
My
Say that
question
again.
was, has the moratorium on evictions lifted yet?
It has. It has.
Dalton says vast majority of his marketing targets out-of-state buyers. Yes, of course, that is very smart. Like we were talking about. Also, guys, what is the hardest thing about getting people here to list? Convincing them they can buy a new house?
That's probably number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I would agree with that. And you hear all of them say, one thing you hear all of them say is, man, I should sell my house now while the market's high, but where am I going to go? Right?
Yeah,
That's what they
where am I
all say. Yeah, that's a real thing. So when you don't get that objection from out-of-state buyers, right? Because they're going to sell it. It's nice to have one local, because then you can hopefully list their house and buy them a new one and do a double deal. But it is much more, it's much easier with these out-of-state folks to get them done quickly. And like we said, they've got the money and they come in with the cash. Guys, I can't tell you how many of you guys talk to me about, why is my offer not getting accepted? I'm having such a hard time with these buyers and blah, blah, blah. And every time it is traced back to a lack of cash. You've got to have liquidity to buy a house right now. You've got to have cash. Nobody wants FHA deals right now. Like we talked about, one of the reasons I believe a lot of stuff is coming back on market, I see it myself and I see it with you guys, is that sellers don't believe they have to spend money on their house fixing it up to sell it. Inspections come in and people say, well, we just don't have that kind of money. We don't want to put that kind of time or money into fixing all these things that are wrong with it. Or, you guys have got to fix this roof or I can't get it insured or whatever it is. And so sellers aren't making repairs. You've got to have cash right now if you're going to come into this market and try to buy a house. And that is what's hurting Floridians. And it's what a lot of out-of-state people have. And guys, they wouldn't be, one thing you guys do is you market people who aren't necessarily looking to move, right? I mean, that you try to entice them. I see your Facebook posts. I see all this stuff. What a great time, you know, renting sucks. Let's buy, you know, all that stuff. And you're talking to people who aren't sitting there thinking, boy, I sure have a lot of cash. I should buy a house, right? I should put it into something. You're talking to people who think, well, we're making it okay, but man, it would be nice to own instead of rent, right? We just keep renting, or they're going to make us move again this year. I got to move again. This is terrible. I should buy a house, right? That's the worst thing about renting, is that you got to move at some point and it's not your choice. So, so remember, you're marketing those people who don't necessarily have a lot of money, a lot of the locals. Keep marketing them, keep doing it, keep working them, but they don't necessarily. And those of you who are struggling in the business and you're working a bunch of buyers and you're running around and doing everything you can, keep doing it. I mean, keep hustling. These people will be sellers in 3 to 5 to 7 years, right? These people that you've got, you look at, Daryl's nodding his head. Daryl, how many clients have you had? Idul, I know. A lot of you guys, Tammy, you guys have sold people, and now you sold my house as a buyer's agent, and now they're selling again, and now they've sent you their friends, and now they've sent you this and that. Work these people, get these deals, get your foot in the door with them, be their realtor, right? I don't care if they're buying that $140,000 condo. Get involved with them and be their person, no matter how much work it takes. And you can't justify that you only made $2,500 or whatever it was on their first house, whatever it is you made. Get out there and do that, because it's going to help you in the long run. And you're building a career here. You're not just trying to eat next month, right? You're trying to build a career. So get out there and do that. And like we talked about with Reminder Media last week, follow up. You don't, whether you use Reminder Media or whatever you use, follow up. That is one of the most important things about this. And one of the things that I always beat over you guys' heads with this 100% commission thing is, use some of this money that we don't take and use some of it for marketing new people, and use it for following up. Like we talked about last week, 10 times more expensive to get a new customer than it is to keep an old one. And they are going to do business in 5 years, and you're going to wish you had, right? Whatever you're doing for them now, they're going to give you, if you're buying them by their first house, or they're upgrading because they had kids, or they're whatever they're doing, you're going to be their realtor forever. And you're going to get two sides. You might sell them a $200,000 house today, but they're going to sell that in 5 years for $275 and buy one for $400. And you're going to get both of those deals if you remain their realtor. And then they're going to do it again in 5 to 7 years, and they're going to do it again in 5 to 7 years until they're old and they downsize to their last condo, which you're going to help them do. But by then you'll be working with their kids and their grandkids, because you're their realtor. Okay. And any friends they have moving to Central Florida or out of Central Florida or wherever you are, those, you're going to be their realtor. So do that stuff. Don't give up. Stay with them, fight for them, work for them, make them, you know, for your own sanity. Find out where else they can get cash, you know, mom and dad, Uncle Joe, wherever they can get cash, right? Find out those things, ask those questions, or you're wasting your time. A lot of you guys are too worried about I don't want to violate their privacy and ask them, you know, where they can get more money. But you got to tell them up front, you're going to need a little bit more money, right? Because we're going to do this, and we can't. Let me see here. Where's the best place to advertise listings? It depends on what you're doing, Gail. If you're doing, if you're talking about like I know you've got some upscale stuff for your area that's on rivers, on lakes and stuff like that. I can't seem to sell one. We got low appraisal. Now we can't take FHA. The other one, seller insisted on listing waiver price. Now it's in a good price range. Well, that's your first step. But yeah, you're going to have a lot of sellers insisting on listing waiver price. That's what we talked about. But like you said, if it's slowing down in your market, Gail is in a very rural market. If it's slowing down in your market, then it's time to tell your clients that. Be honest with your clients. Always be honest with your clients. Tell them, you know, just like we disclose to your clients, both buyers and sellers, what it's going to take. Like we just talked about, be honest with them. It's going to take a little bit of cash. Can you get cash? Be honest with your sellers and say, yeah, what you're reading about properties in Orlando and Tampa, it's not the same here in Lake Panasoffkee. So you're going to have to fight that battle. And you know, also, if we moved your house to Orlando or Tampa, it'd be worth $1 million, and it's worth 400,000 here, or whatever that is, but it's not the same market, right? So where do agents advertise, and do they get results? So Gail, or just type in there real quick, what advertising, are you talking about advertising listings, or are you talking about advertising to get buyers. Well, I guess it's the same, but waterfront property. Okay, I had one yesterday I can tell you about. It is for, let's see, because I sent it to another agent who had a upscale listing. And it is Haven Homes and Lifestyles. Have you anybody used that? I know some of you have, because this agent, I told her about it. She said, yeah, I already put it in there.
What'd you say it was called?
Haven, I'll write it in the chat.
Okay.
Haven, Haven, Homes and Lifestyles. You guys probably get their advertisements because I'm sure they just pulled a list from MLS or something, because I've never requested their stuff. So what else have you guys done for upscale listings? Anybody, what have you done to boost upscale listings?
Question, sorry, a note about listing. Can I ask if anybody have heard about knock agents? I see some other agents in my Instagram putting on their feed like, oh, I got knock agent certified. I'm not sure, is this company that lets you buy and sell your home at the same time? So, the seller don't have to wait to sell their home to buy the new one. Anybody heard of it?
I just looked it up. You can be is it NOC? Because that's a CIA thing.
No, just, yeah, KNOCK, just knock.
Oh, I thought it was
Certified.
like a
I
word.
heard of something about writing something in a contract like that, but I have not heard that name. Have you ever heard that writing in a contract?
I have. I moved from Keller Williams, New Tampa, and over there they were kind of like talking about encouraging agents to get knock certified. I believe it's free of cost. I'm really not 100% sure, but it kind of like trains agents to help like buyers sell their home and then buy a new one. I'm not certified, so that's from what I've heard.
Yeah, so knock is a company that underwrites the purchase of your new home, then they help you
Yeah.
list and sell your old home. So when they say they help you list and sell it, they're not a brokerage, they're using
You're a mortgage, sounds like a mortgage person, right?
Is that?
It
I
sounds
was
like
confused.
it sounds like a mortgage system more than a
Service.
company, like almost like a program. Knock makes money via convenience fee equal to 1.25%, as well as the profit it generates when selling a home for more than it was purchased for. So they're buying the house, I guess. I don't know, but this is something we can look into and figure out. Anybody know anything else more about it than that? Because I don't.
Yeah.
That's just what I found on
It's okay. I
Google.
figure it's worth mentioning, so maybe people can look at it, especially in this market, might be useful, to help sellers and up and buy and sell at the same time.
Ada, I have an idea for next week's meeting. If you could
Huh?
research it and let us know, that would be great.
Yeah. All right. I'll do some research. Maybe I get
Awesome.
certified in the meantime. All right.
Yes, get certified and let us all know.
Yeah.
how it went.
You never know.
All right. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
Ryan. For you and my fellow agents here with more experience, investing right now on a condo or a small town home, a small property, looking to rent it for a year, 2 year, 3 year, whatever. Is this still wise to invest in a small property in this market, or wait a little longer? Just taking advantage of even the low interest rates for investors. Looking for opinions.
Daryl, we can't hear you.
Nope.
The
I
answer
don't-
is always yes.
Yeah.
That is always a yes.
Yeah, it just depends on where you're looking at. But I just helped somebody buy a condo for 170 and he's rented it for 1600 a month. So, I mean, if you're looking for a deal, it's always a good time to invest.
Yeah, so I'll pipe in since Daryl doesn't want to talk. So not like him at all. Yeah, absolutely. So what Dalton is saying, you might not get what we used to see with the 8 and 9 cap rates and stuff like that right now, but with rents going up and properties appreciating the way they are, it's always a good time to buy and start growing. The best time to do it is now. It's just like when you're talking about an investment portfolio, it's just like planting a tree. The best time to do it was 20 years ago. The second best time is today, right? So get started. And that's part of it. If they're putting down the way the rental market is too, we have way more demand than supply. That's why rents are going up still. I wouldn't have guessed that a couple of years ago when rents were going up so much. I wouldn't have guessed that they would still be going up this much in 2021, but they are. And a lot of that is the same thing, driven by outside money. But they, you have the ability, when we talk about, and I do this when we talk about our investment training, we talk about the cash on cash return, which is different from the return on investment, which is once you liquidate that property, how did that investment work out for you? Because if you're just getting by you're seeing people buy stuff at 5% return right now and happy about it because properties are appreciating so much. And they know they sell it in 5 years and they're getting, because rents keep going up, they're getting another 10% a year in value and appreciation. So it's, you're seeing a lot of that stuff, but it has become a lot more competitive, which is what's pushing down that 5%. There used to be a time when you wanted to sell something, you had to give somebody a 9% cap rate. And now you can sell stuff with a 5%, 6% cap rate because people want to put money into real estate. And part of that is because they feel like the appreciation is almost guaranteed. Not necessarily to a certain level, but it's almost guaranteed appreciation. And the rental market is so strong here that they're guaranteed tenants.
Did you guys get the email from these South Florida realtors for Millennial Park? I think it's at Oak Ridge and John Young Parkway. They're paying 5%. There's like 8 buildings. There's like 950 units. They're 1s, 2s, and 3 bedrooms. They're totally for investors. It's only rental, no Airbnb. They have to manage it for you at 7%, and they're paying 5% commission. And it's only cash deal. So they have a payment structure, 30,000 down, and you're paid half of your commission when your investor goes under contract. They pay you the 2.5%, I think, and then when they close, they give you the other 2.5. But it's only cash, no financing, and there are 5 of their towers already sold out, so they only have 2 towers left.
Don't see many people doing the 5%.
What are the price ranges for those units?
It's like 189 was the one. I think it had a den, and then like 220. They may have gone up a little bit in price, but they were actually pretty reasonably priced. And then the 3-bedroom, I think, was like 280. And it's kind of got to have an office park, like an office and shopping like underneath on the bottom level. And it had a big pool. It's strictly a rental community. I mean, you could live in there as an owner occupied as an investor, but it's really being sold as just investment property for investors to have a rental. Probably a lot of out of country people too, maybe.
Amy, can you share that info? Can I give you the email? I have an investor looking for a rental like that. I'm going to put the email in the chat, please. If you don't mind for me, that email would be great.
Yeah, sure.
They'll
do they'll do a webinar. Like I got it to do.
Awesome.
I did a webinar with them. And then
do you know
it's
in the building phase, right? Do you know when it will be ready?
Correct. They haven't even broken ground yet. I think it's 2023.
Oh, okay.
And the
So-
payment structure set up for like, over that time frame to where it's kind of spread out. Yeah.
Okay, but good
But
thing to have.
they'll
Okay.
do a webinar. You can sign up for their webinar and then they'll come on live and do, tell you about it.
All right. That's awesome. Yeah, maybe. Let me, I'll put my email there in the chat. I
Okay.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Let me see if I can find that info.
Yeah, Ida wants it too. Malvis, let me ask you a question. Turn the tables on you. Did you just ask a question and then leave to answer a Prime Street referral
I'm so
while I was
sorry.
answering your question? Because I see that you did that, and I want to talk to you. The reason I'm not picking on you, the reason I want to talk about that is
I
it's
am
great.
so sorry.
No, good for you. You took that lead. I see. I got an email that you took the lead and dinged me. So
I
guys,
just talked.
you are Malvis. No, that's wonderful. You guys are not. I don't care who you are. I'm talking to all of you now. Some of you guys have not sold much, and some of you guys have sold a ton of property. You guys are not too good to take these Prime Street referrals. Okay, they are good. We took 3 of them yesterday. There's not as many as the Op City, but they're a lot better. In that, I mean, Op City, a lot of you guys have done great deals on Op City, but I'm seeing 350, 500, all these. The one Malvis just got was just 250, I think. But
Yes.
but there's all kinds of these referrals, and they are good referrals, and you guys are closing them, and you guys are not too good for this stuff. I don't. Whoever
Can
you
I
are,
just-
you need to hear this. You're not too good for this. Yes.
Hold
Mel.
on. I don't know what this is. What is this?
Well, you're too good for it, Ada. I'm just kidding. I'll ask me for the
No.
info and I'll send it to you.
I'll send. Thank you.
So Ryan, yes, I'm sorry, I apologize. I just pressed the button before and I was just waiting for the call and I had to excuse myself. But anyhow, this lady is actually coming from Miami and she wants to buy in Poinciana which I think, small property she can still find on that price range. But I am got first closing a deal from Prime Street this Friday and the property is 305. I have to tell you though that a whole bunch of leads I had to remove and let the company know that send them because when I am learning, Ryan, to screen these leads and identify which ones are really worth of keeping it because on the app, you have to keep Prime Street informed of what you do with them. You have to follow up, you have to call, you have to a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm learning.
It's a pain in the butt. It's actually
Yes.
overkill, in my opinion. That's why I quit
Okay.
doing.
Okay,
Their
it
app
is.
way-
It
Their app
is.
is way
but
too detailed.
Put
For
your,
me,
put-
for me works. For me, it's working right now because I have probably gotten, I don't know, maybe 20 leads. And out of those 20, maybe a little more, I don't know. I have been removing the ones that aren't to me after I screen them and I find out that they either don't have money or they need to they need to have a co-borrower or their credit score sucks or they are looking for down payment assistance. In this market, that's just not gonna cut it. It's just not gonna work. But there are some actually, Ryan, one that I'm closing on Friday, I met that lady a year ago in the FRI office in downtown Orlando. This is like when COVID first hit, I kept following up with her. I had this lady and she's conventional. She sold her home in Venezuela. She's putting like $100,000 down or 58,000, something like that. We had issues with her lenders. We changed lenders, but I've been working with this lady and I really hope I can close this deal on Friday because I worked like a dog for this transaction specifically. But what I'm saying is a lot of these leads, Ryan, are like pretty browsers, but I'm learning how to vet them and identify which one are the ones that I should really keep up with.
That's fantastic. And you know what they call people who are tire kickers and don't have money and have bad credit? Those are leads. All leads are like that. Okay. I mean, it's like that. And you've got, and 1 out of 20 is pretty darn good. That's about what you should be. That's actually 5% is a little higher than what average for people who buy Zillow leads. they sell about 3.8 to 4.2% or something like that. Sell about 4% of the ones that they buy for, gosh, well, I don't even know what they cost anymore. A lot. But so that's about what conversion rate is. So you're doing pretty well with that. And yes, the idea is not to spend a whole lot of time on it. But if you have spent, if you're going to make, what are you gonna make, $6,000 or something by the time you pay their referral fee and all that kind of stuff? I don't
It's
know.
about five. It's about,
Okay. How many
it's about
hours?
4,500.
How many hours did you spend deleting those people off of your app?
Deleting, not many. The ones that no,
Right.
delete.
So screening them and doing all that stuff, you probably spent what, 30 minutes on each of them?
If so, maybe less.
If that, maybe less, right? You can probably get through them in 10 minutes, get rid of the people, right? But if you take into account, you know, the different times you had to call them and email them and stuff like that, maybe, you know, 10, 15, 20 minutes each for 19 of the people that didn't buy anything, can't buy anything. And then the work that you put in on selling the property, I mean, how much would you say you made per hour on that? You probably did pretty well. No, this is what I'm getting at.
Oh.
What you guys do when you get a sale. So having to weed through 20 people and eliminate them quickly, that pays off, guys. I'd rather have 19 bad leads and 20 leads than none, right? Considering that every 20 to 25 I get, I'm going to get a buyer or a seller or whatever.
Well, what I like about them too is that I don't pay anything until I close. So the lead that I'm not spending any penny.
That's the idea. You have no risk and no cash outlay and no risk, right? That's the idea. Yeah, it's expensive to pay. Like Dalton posted 2,500 for 8 connections a month in his zip code, right? But that he pays, he risks that $2,500 for 8 connections. Depending on how good they are for what he pays, he is going to, 7 of them aren't going to buy anything, but that 8th one that does, he's making a lot more than $2,500, right? But he's taking that risk. So, and he's putting the money out there. So not everybody can do that. So they know that. But I want to talk to you about this thing and hit back on what we talked about before. This lady from Venezuela who's buying this Friday, right? You're going to be her realtor. You worked with her for a year on and off, right? She met you a year ago. She came back to you. She's worked with you through this whole thing. Do you think she's just going to abandon you if you don't abandon her? If you stay in her life, is she going to abandon you? Or is she going to say, anybody who's coming to Orlando, anybody I know who's coming to Orlando needs to work with Malvis? Right? Okay. It's worth it. It's well worth it, guys. It's what we talked about. Staying in people's lives, getting referrals, anything else that she has going on, you're going to be her realtor and her family's realtor.
Elvis, isn't their app very intense, like for keeping up with all the little details? I mean, it's like every 5 days they're texting you to update, and that's just not realistic with the way you work.
But I tell you what. No, but I tell you what, it takes me like 10 seconds, Tammy, because the minute when you open the app, if you add a note in there, that updates the app automatically. And it takes me 10 seconds to say, buyer not ready yet.
Okay.
So whatever you put in there, Prime Street keeps track of, because if you let too many days pass by and you don't
exactly,
they'll text you. They'll tell you your account is on warning. You need to follow up. Blah 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 blah. So I like it because it reminds me, who do I need to remove? Like last night, I called a lady last night. This guy, he's retired from he's a VA. They don't have a lot of money. I already made myself a note that if they don't speak to the lender that I have sent them 3 times already, I am going to delete them. Because number 1, I already know they don't have enough money. Number 2, they're looking to buy VA. I'm sorry, but that's just not going to work in this market.
It will work. That will work in this market, possibly.
No, not possibly. For a house.
For new properties.
Right. Number 2, she needs to use his credit. So I have sent them the lender 3 times on a text message through the app, and they have yet called the lender. So I made myself a note. If they don't call my lender today, I'm done with them. I can't keep on following up with them for the next 6 months if they're not doing the homework that I'm telling them to do. So that's what I'm trying to learn as an agent, to keep track and keep the ones that are, in my eyes, worth the work. Then, because yes, if you have them in there for too long, you have to keep on. I think they withhold you back. If you don't follow up, if you don't sell, they stop sending you leads. So you have
Right.
to update everything through the app.
Well, good. Well, Malvis has taken, what have you taken, Malvis, 5 or so in the last 3 weeks, something like that from Prime Street?
Yes, and right now I have I have 2 on long-term hold, which puts them on hold for 30 days, right? The last time they spoke to them, they said, okay, Malvis, let me get some finances in place. Let me talk to my sister-in-law, see if she wants to co-sign with me. So I'm gonna put them on hold for 30 days. I'm gonna follow up with them. If they didn't resolve the issue, I'm gonna remove them, because that is holding me from getting more people back to me. You know what I'm saying? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I removed a guy that couldn't make up his mind, and he said, I only have $5,000. So.
Right. Well, good. So you're just snapping necks over there, getting rid of people. I love it.
Hey, Ryan.
But yeah.
I gotta jump in here to say, you know what, if because I sell a lot of bank properties, anybody that wants to get into this industry, it goes back, if you think that that's a lot of tasking, you don't sell bank properties, okay? Because it is 24 hours a day, never stops, all day long. You're working 14, 15 hours a day. So what you're doing, tasking that's a piece of cake.
Yep.
If you can do that, you should be selling bank properties, because it's a good practice, because it's, you know, you all haven't done it, believe me, because everyone asks me, oh, I want to sell bank properties. I say, well, you got a life, you got a kid, you got a husband, you got a wife, forget them, they're gone. I'm not kidding. It's 24 hours a day.
So if you guys, yes, and Glenn's right. So it's funny that you say that, Glenn. It's a very similar idea, although clearly not as
You can do that.
They're not dealing with as much money, and they're not dealing with it. It's a different, they're answering. So you guys both do. Glenn has to answer to these banks all the time about what he's doing with their property, and they have all these forms and stuff he's got to fill out all the time. Right, and he can't say no. You guys, when you list a normal property for a seller, you have to update them, you know, every day or every other day or whatever. You know, we got this going on, we got a showing here, showing there.
It's nothing.
Glenn's got to keep it, and all the way through the sales process, he's got to stay on top of the paperwork. But I want to get back to Prime Street here, Op City here, guys. They are accumulating these leads. Op City, before they were bought by Realtor.com, they used to literally buy Zillow leads, okay, by the bulk. And then they're giving them out to you guys. They were paying for them, and you can still say they're paying for them because they bought the company, so they're paying for them. They're paying for them and giving them to you. And so, yeah, just like Tammy, if you gave me, you know, hey, my sister wants to buy a house, will you take good care of her? You're going to want to know that I'm taking care of her, right? I mean, if you bought a lead and gave it to me and said, give me 30% of this, and I said, okay, and then I never did anything, you want to make sure that you don't give me anything else to do nothing with, right? So that's why they require so much, you know, informing them of what's going on. They want to make sure that you're actually following up. And I can tell you that does make Malvis, and I'm using her for an example, or anybody, follow up more with these clients when she's got to keep updating the system. Oh, what am I going to tell them in 5 days? I better call them. I better tell them to do this.
It's good practice.
It is good practice. But, and you guys know I get on you all the time because you guys make $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 a transaction, 15, 25. Some of you have made $100,000 a transaction, and you find all this stuff to be really annoying. And it is annoying. It's work. I realize that. But a lot of people work all the time for a lot less. So this tasking, as Glenn calls it, tasking, is not much to do for the money that you guys make. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. And that's why I asked Malvis, how many hours did you work on these people? How much money did you make an hour? If you think about it that way, you'll feel a lot better about these little tasking and things that you have to do. And it's not just for Op City or whomever, it's for all the tasks that you have to do. Meet with the inspectors and digging up comps for the appraiser and doing all this stuff, marketing yourself. All of this stuff goes into that. yeah, you work hard, and when you add it up, if you work hard enough, maybe you don't make that much per hour, but you end up making a lot of money. So all of this stuff is just work that you got to do, guys, and it's not a lot of work for the money that you make. Any other questions or comments? So yeah, some of you guys have, I've already got one email, somebody's in chat. Yeah, guys, please email me if you want this stuff. You guys know my email, please do that. Julia, we're talking about Prime Street, which is another app. So you guys send me that stuff and I'll get you on there. Like OpCity, there are qualifications. And Dalton, I did see your post, by the way, and that doesn't make sense to me. I will work with you on getting that resolved if you'd like. I mean, if you came in brand new right now, you'd have the qualifications for the other program. So I don't, maybe they've changed something there. I don't know. But all of you guys, email me if you want the info on Prime Street. And if you're not signed up with OpCity and you want that, just let me know what you want and I'll send you the information.
Ryan, I have a quick question.
Yes, Joy.
Please. What do you do if a seller asks to stay at a property for 30 days after closing?
Is it your seller?
No, I'm representing the buyers.
I would just put off closing for 30 days.
So
If they absolutely won't move, I'd put off closing. If you've already have it under contract, then just say no.
Yes, they're under contract. So do I need to come up with an addendum?
And whoa, wait a minute. Are you your buyers are willing to do this?
Yes, they are, and they
Was that part of the contract originally?
We did put a few things on the contract. This just happened yesterday regarding all the terms, but I don't know if I need to come up with a different addendum to attach.
Let me ask you something, Joy. Is the contract signed already without this in it?
The contract out. I'm gonna email you the contract. It's already in there, so I don't know.
It's in there that the seller is going to stay an extra 30 days.
Right. It's in there that it's going to stay for extra 30 days for free. So the buyer approved that. So, but I don't know what about if they don't move after 30 days? Do I need to come up with like an additional addendum?
You don't need to do any kind of legal paperwork.
Okay.
Have them have a lawyer draw it up. Have the seller, have the buyer talk to an attorney about it. Because I don't want to tell you that there's an addendum that says you're going to have a post-closing occupancy agreement. It does not. That is not the agreement. Don't write the agreement below in that. You're going to do. You're going to have. I would have an attorney prepare some kind of lease or something because that's a tough thing to agree to. And I would have recommended just putting the closing off for a month. That way they don't own the property and it's not. Where they're not moved in, it's not insured, et cetera. They have these sellers still in the house. They could damage it. They could refuse to leave if their contract doesn't go through whatever they're buying, which is common, or they can't find what they want to buy. So it's a very complicated mess and you don't want to be writing any kind of 1 month lease or anything like that. I would have an attorney draw up something that's more foolproof and protects them in case something happens with the seller and they don't want to move out.
Okay, thank you.
The post occupancy does say if you cannot come to an agreement on the lease, that both parties can go their separate ways, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So I don't know if you filled that one out or not.
No, I didn't.
So the lease may be $1 or whatever, but whatever the attorney, since they're letting them stay for free. It will let you live there for a month for $1 and, but here's what the rules are and here's when you're moving out. All right.
Where do I get the form from?
It's on your empty transaction desk.
Oh, okay. It's empty.
You don't have any files, but your transaction desk still works.
It's a post occupancy agreement.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Tammy. Thanks, Ryan.
You bet. I'm updating I'm reloading my.
Ryan, so on that
Yes.
matter, sorry, I'm back here. My second deal closing on November 1st, we're doing the same thing there. The seller is going to stay there for a month until they close on the new. You recommend I do the post occupancy? I mean, we did an addendum because they agreed to get some furniture in exchange of letting them free for a month. Should I do the post occupancy better, right?
You should have, it's not so much about the addendum that I care about. It's about, at this point, it's about having a legal lease that protects the seller, I'm sorry, the buyer, the new
The buyer,
owner, that they're gonna leave the house, because that is the biggest part is possession.
right.
So that's the part you want to clear up. It's not the rent or the exchange or anything else. The problem is possession. And how many of you guys have had people with
Yeah.
nowhere? I can answer this question. Almost all of you had people with nowhere to go because some deal fell through at the last minute.
Yeah.
All this stuff, and they would overstay if they could. And some of them have overstayed that you guys have shared with me. I
Mhm.
never personally had that, but I've heard you guys stories about it.
So you recommend we draw up some sort of lease or lease agreement?
Yes, absolutely. And that should have been in your original. So guys, the purpose of that addendum is to get into the original contract. When anybody asks you for extra time, put that in the original contract. So you have, all that says is that the parties agree that there will be a post occupancy, post-closing occupancy lease of some sort drawn up. That's all that thing says. It's not the lease. Don't write the terms on that sheet. Don't do anything on that paper other than fill in the blanks. And then it says, if we don't come up to with an agreement, then everybody can get out. But you do not draw up the lease. Have an attorney do
Right.
that. You guys are not attorneys.
Right,
All
right.
right.
There's a FAR bar lease, which is for a long-term lease that you can use for just easy lease stuff where you just fill in the blanks, which you are licensed to do and you are legally capable of doing. But anything like a 1 month lease where, to guarantee that they get out and that there's some kind of repercussions if they don't, then that I would, if I were doing this, I would want to withhold some of their money in escrow until they're completely gone.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a
Ryan,
good idea.
Yes,
Ryan,
yes, you do.
yeah, you might end up in a problem. I mean, I try not to do post occupancy because like you said, you get into too many troubles because you can't do a long-term lease because that's what we have to do with 12 months and you don't want them 12 months. And then you can't do a 1 month because that's a short term and the HOA might not approve that. So you have to evict them pretty much if it's there above their 12, 1 month, you have to evict them. Right?
You can, I'm not an attorney, you do, but this is exactly the kind of thing that I tell you to talk to an attorney about. I
Yeah.
believe there is some way to work this into where it's an addendum to the contract and it's part of the deal and it's not a separate lease has to be
Right.
enforceable. But an attorney could answer that question better than I can. Next time we have an attorney on here, we'll ask.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the thing. So there are a couple opportunities for getting yourself educated on the revisions to the as is. Okay. There's one that Nishad is doing. Those of you guys know Nishad. He's doing one, not with our group in particular, but he's doing one, a webinar. We get priority. Let them know that you're an FRI agent and you'll get priority for that, that webinar because there's only so much space. And what else? There's a couple other opportunities. I'm going to bring someone in into our meeting to discuss it as well. Yes, Tammy.
How do we contact him? Just email him?
I'm going to send that out. I got an email yesterday yesterday or the day before. I'll send it out to you guys.
Is that time, Brian, gonna count as continuing education hours as well?
No, but you guys who do all this cobbling together continuing education hours are insane anyway. So just go online and do it when it's at your 14 hours. Just go online and do it. And
well, in 2020, because of the pandemic, I was offering so many free classes through webinars that I took them. I didn't have to do my 14 hours because I have so many through the webinars that were free.
well, I did mine in about 28 minutes, I think it was. So I'm just a fast learner.
I'm not.
All right, well, you guys can do the online. I'm kidding. Anybody could have done it. Any other questions or comments on that?
No, that's Ryan. What happened with the transaction desk now? When are we gonna get back the files? Mine is empty too.
I wish I could tell you. It's going to be soon. We've had this going on. This is an issue. I explained earlier. It started about 3 weeks ago with a couple of agents, and then it turned into about 30 over 2 weeks, and then a week ago we thought we had it all figured out, and apparently we didn't. We had it figured out for a week, and then instead of 2 or 3 a day, 341 of you now had been transferred. Your file's been transferred out of transaction desk, so including me. So we did not do that to you. I did not wake up at 5:30 this morning and start moving people's files.
No, I understand.
It's always a good time, I'm sure, but I
You
did not
sure?
do that. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I
Okay.
didn't even dream about it.
So just sit tight and wait till it gets remedied, right?
Yeah, it will. And you can, guys, don't let this stop you. Okay, so for a brief time, whether you know it or not, you were moved, your number was moved, your license, your 9-digit number was moved to a different office under our name also, and then you were moved back. So you've already changed brokerages this morning, so don't freak out. Then that's why your files get automatically transferred. They moved you back and they've got to transfer them back. That's what we're waiting on now. This does not, guys. So there was a brief time this morning. I had one person tell me at 6:15 that they couldn't get into their listings. So there was a brief time this morning you couldn't get in your listings. Now they're all back. But your transaction desk still works. You can still use it to draw up a form on a property you already have. You just have to go back through and input the information. Okay. It will take you an extra 2 minutes, but like we learned this morning, tasks are nothing for us. We can handle tasks. It's all about getting the deal done. So in the meantime, eventually these will be back in what you've already done will be back in your transaction desk.
All
And
right,
if
so
you
if
have-
we have add another transaction right now, it would be working or is going to be
Yeah, you can add
transferred?
one right now. Your old ones got moved. You can add one right now. You can completely work in transaction desk right now, guys.
All right, perfect.
All right.
Sounds good, thank you.
All right. And we're going to get it resolved as soon as possible. We're working on it. I got a couple of you sent me stuff about Prime Street. Thank you. 4 or 5 of you. All right. Any other questions or comments? Well, I have a comment. You guys are absolutely awesome. You had a record-setting September like we talked about last week. You were doing awesome already in October. Way ahead of ahead of schedule, and happy for you guys. You guys are selling these properties. We're getting I talked to a mortgage person yesterday who said, man, I can't believe how much business you guys do. I looked at the matrix, all the brokerages, and you guys are right up there. Well, it's because of awesome agents like you guys. So I appreciate it. If there's anything you guys need, let us know. All right.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you, Ryan.
You bet.
Nice
Thank you
meeting
guys always.
everyone.
You guys were awesome as always. And if you guys need anything, let us know. Bye, Abby. Thanks for coming, Abby.
Bye, Ryan.
guys. Bye, guys.
Bye. Nice meeting you. Bye.